Sometimes we have to sit in a red light, but we don't have to be that person who's honking the horn and screaming and yelling. We can be the calm person. And there's a lot of value in those things. Those things we tend to think are really small, although with a tiny little ripple, those things can be carried over, and someone might feel called to do that for somebody else. So I think that's a win.
Take the time to remind yourself that it all starts inside yourself.
Wake up feeling stuck every day, then you gotta realize that it's all in your mindset. Read about that meditation, you go get around to it, you just haven't had the time yet. Yeah, I bet. Best thing that you could invest in is you. Could have the results or could have the excuse. Only one life, so take care of what you choose. And I ain't preaching, I'm just telling you the truth. Wake up.
Hello and welcome to Bombastik Broadcasting with Kat, Kim, and Sue.
And as you know, Bombastik Broadcasting is dedicated to highlighting the people who are living their soul's fire, one day at a time, one step at a time, bringing it to you, one broadcast at a time. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce our next guest. His name is Curtis Knuth, coming to us from Ottawa. And his business is called Vita Sana, which translates into Life Heals. And one of the cool things he's done is created an energy style that helps people release emotions, which, wow, powerful. Can't wait to hear about that. Holistic wellness, helping clients expand their awareness to know themselves more fully and progress. So, welcome. Thank you for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me,
to
guys.
Sue.
It's awesome.
Curtis,
Cool.
let's start off with the releasing of emotions. That sounds awesome. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I'm sure everyone's familiar with Reiki in this audience. So
Yes.
6 years ago, I ventured into learning how to utilize healing modalities. And Reiki was the first one that kind of initiated me into birthing my experience with even understanding energy. And I researched in Usui Reiki, Holy Fire Reiki, and Karuna Reiki, and fell in love with it. Began working with clients, received a lot of great feedback with clients. I studied in rapid transformational therapy with Marissa Peer, and in understanding it's a hypnosis technique. I was more fascinated with talking with the professors and precisely why the mind allows certain things and doesn't allow other things. And through being gifted really fascinating books, some current books and some books from early 1800s, late 1700s, I began to see patterns in the research from today, research that had been, kind of saved for us to pick up once again. Through doing that, became more curious. I haven't ever been someone who's been satisfied with receiving an answer on someone. I've always said why. And so each time I think I know something, I always question, well, why does that work? Because I'm not satisfied with, basic idea of what we think we know. Because, there is a number and I can't really pinpoint it. I think it's 1 in 8 billion, or I could be wrong on that. It is a grand number of the likelihood of us even talking right now. So that would make us That would make us complete miracles. So now study a miracle. That takes a little bit of effort to study what a miracle truly is. And I think we're equipped with anything and everything that we have to overcome whatever is going on in our lives. And that is kind of where I based my research in discovering, why is this miracle so fascinating? Why are we so fascinating? And emotions seem to be the lead. In an instant we can be laughing, and in an instant we can be crying. And, how come that? And right there, some people would hear that and say, well, that's good enough. But for me, it wasn't good enough. I had to know why. How come it's so easy for us to switch our emotions in an instant? And now we've all experienced some things that we're not so fond of. And we've also experienced things that we really enjoy. So we've all kind of understand the spectrum of emotions. Why are they so crucial? Why do they play such a massive role? And for that matter, why do we cling to them so much? And so through that curiosity, the more I would research, the more it was formed in kind of questions. I would continuously ask questions as I was falling asleep. And the things that I would receive sometimes in the middle of the night, almost like I was receiving answers to these questions. And that became
Fantastic.
a bit of a journey for me. I had always thought these things were normal for me to find somebody in my life that I could research this stuff with. And thankfully, one of my really good friends is spiritual as well. And him and I decided to get together once a week for the past 6 years and study these things. And more importantly, try them on for ourselves and to see whether there's any efficacy in, do we have a say in what happens in our life? And I found it wasn't more so changing our behavior. I found it was more adjusting our behavior. And through adjusting our behavior, we began to see things in our lives that we hadn't yet seen, and which would excite us because we became eager to learn more about it, and always understanding that we are perfect. So perfection doesn't need change, right? Sometimes.
Thank you, Curtis. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. Everything you're saying is so good. Sorry, go ahead. So keep saying it.
Yeah. So I look at us like an artist paints a beautiful picture. This picture is perfect. And then it gets handed to someone, and then someone purchases it and they bring it home and they unwrap it and they hang it on their wall and they show it off to people. But someone with a really acute eye comes along and says, it's a beautiful picture, but it's kind of crooked. And they just walk over and adjust it, right? So I think we can do the same thing in our lives.
Okay.
And through this type of, connecting, sometimes you don't really realize it, but there might be someone that has an acute eye that can notice something in your life that needs adjusting. And, we may never see that person again in our lives, and we're completely adjusted. So, we are perfect, and realizing that through vulnerability, through self-acceptance, through realizing that we're not, confined by the way we've been raised, we're not confined by our social norms, we're not confined by the social programming that is only available to us. We start to see differently. And Wayne Dwyer, he has a really good way of saying it, and Alan Watts always has a great way of saying it too. When we become spiritual and awakened, it's not like you're going to live a different life. What actually happens is you're living the same life, but you're floating 2 inches off the ground. So when we experience,
That's amazing.
So when we're experiencing our life, whether it be discord or harmony, we're viewing it from a completely different angle now. And it doesn't have the same effect on us. And then we're stronger in our lives to persevere and overcome things, and they don't seem as heavy. So I find there is a lot of spiritual bypassing that happens, and bless anyone's heart who is eager to change their life. What we contribute through Over the Pavement. We contribute through, showing up in the hard times and, being a good example. And sometimes we have to sit in a red light, but we don't have to be that person who's honking the horn and screaming and yelling. We can be the calm person. And there's a lot of value in those things. There's a lot of value in standing in line or recognizing that someone just needs a door held open. Those things we tend to think are really small. Although with a tiny little ripple, those things can be carried over, and someone might feel called to do that for somebody else. So I think that's a win. So you might be wondering, how did this lead me to creating a style to assist people in releasing emotions?
Yes.
I had the opportunity, gratefully, to work at a clinic with Reiki, and I had been working with clients. And through the Reiki, people were really enjoying it. And it was a wonderful thing to see people experience relief from the things that were ailing them. Although there was this coming back, every month, and people would kind of call it a tune-up, and I guess my desire was always, well, I don't like the idea we have to be dependent on something when it seems like our whole life we're always dependent on something. And I thought, can we not be free of that? And so the idea that you require someone else for everything in your life always, I don't like that idea. I feel we can go within and we can strengthen ourselves enough where we have dependency, not codependency in our life. And
that's the word that came into my mind too. The difference between codependency and
yes.
We all need people, friends, everything. But if you are codependent on something that has, there's something icky there.
Not as nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't feel free to spread your wings, metaphorically, to just be brave enough to do something, because we always want to keep that safety net, which is the codependency. But if we just break through that, we see that it's not required. And we can view those people that we once were codependent on differently in our lives, and express it differently too. Through assisting people in releasing emotions, we discovered that they would be free of these things. And, I mean, to witness someone being free of those things is such a fascinating thing. I've had the pleasure of doing this with a lot of people. As I was working with people in Reiki, there's a particular woman that I like to share this story. She had a severe accident 23 years prior and had to have surgery done on her lower back and had 3 discs replaced in her back. And she came in because she couldn't find relief anywhere else. The painkillers weren't doing anything. The sleeping medication wasn't doing anything. The physio wasn't doing anything. The chiropractic, the needles. There was so many things that were mainstream therapies that she was willing to do and had little to no effect on her life. And so she was seeking out other things. And she also is a Reiki practitioner, so she was very careful who she would work with. And someone suggested me to her, thankfully. And I had done 3 sessions on her over a span of around 4 months. And she loved it. She kept coming back. I was sitting at home one night and saying, well, she keeps coming back. This isn't what I was asking for. And no offense, I don't, it's not that I don't want to see people again. It's that I would, my prayer, my ask was, I want them to be free of these afflictions. And so one night basically, it was more of a demand. I said, I'm done with it. I said, you can take these gifts back. I asked for this. This is something I asked for. And so I went to bed, and that night I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was almost like electric pulses running through my body. It was so weird. I was vibrating. It lasted about 15 minutes, and then I passed out. And I woke up the next day, and I was really hungry, and I was starving, and it was almost like this
something crazy had happened.
Something I can't. Yeah, Now, keep in mind, for myself, I'm a carpenter, growing up as a carpenter, and I played sports, and one of the dudes, and I never really had seen myself as this, and quite possibly that could be why this prayer was answered, or this vision was answered. So that day I had a session with this woman, and she came in, and I told her that something happened to me in the middle of the night, and I wasn't sure what it was, and would she be willing for me to work on her with whatever it was, because I wasn't even certain what was going on. And of course she was all in. And it was about 30 days ago now today that she emailed the clinic saying that she's pain free, and that was 7 months ago.
Oh, wow.
For me, that was the thing where this was answered. So we do get persistent prayer always gets answered, and
I love that.
That's so great.
And for some people maybe prayer isn't that. It's just, what are you asking from your heart? From your heart center, like what are you exuding? What are your motives? I think that's important when people ask for things, like make sure there's no hidden motive when you pray. Just pray and realize that the prayer is answered. And that's where these things led for me. And
Curtis,
the journey. Yeah.
Sorry, I have to say too, the process of even asking, because how desires take different routes. Like you said in the beginning, I want to help heal people, right? If that was a paraphrase of your prayer. And in that, then you found, paying attention to your life, that you were helping people, but you were still in the process of continuing to help instead of heal people and get on your way. So then the evolution of that prayer was what just interested me enough to speak it again to the audience, because you followed that evolution of prayer. You maybe didn't know right all at once because you had to live it a little bit, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I like that you said that, because the prayer was answered immediately.
Yeah.
I didn't have the eyes to see it at the time. So
That's incredible.
I had to cultivate the vision. So that is something really important for people to understand. You may energetically be in alignment with that thing that you've prayed for. So it is here. It has arrived energetically. It's a matter of matching that energy and before it becomes tangible, before it takes form in your life and before you're walking it. And, at one point you would think that there would be crowds of people ready to work with me, but I had to be really patient because, I'm this guy in Canada, like a hockey player, right? No one's going to be lining up at my door. I'm not this seasoned guru
like, I can help you. And they're like, how
yeah.
do you know?
You don't have
All the
long
ladies
white
are
beard.
lined up.
No, no. I like wearing hoodies, so yeah.
What is this
Not the
Milwaukee
guru
too?
look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a Milwaukee hat on there?
Yep.
It's a Milwaukee
Sponsored.
hat. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, as one would understand, a lot of that confusion came into my mind saying, why me? And,
Whistle.
I kind of thought, well, why not? So,
Oh, I love that. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Better question.
yeah, really.
And then, so then you were trying to figure out how to get to people, right? Is that what you were
Yeah.
saying?
So my eagerness out of the gate when she, now we're going back to the day that I did it with her, she said, oh my God, this feels amazing. So I said, oh my goodness, what am I doing? I really didn't understand it. So that became what all the questions is, okay, help me understand this more. That was my requirement. I had to understand it more. So each person that came into the clinic, I would give them the option and I would tell them that something really neat happened to me. Would you be willing for me to experiment and learn about this more? And I think that's the idea that we got to understand. When one of us says it's me that's doing it, I don't agree with that. I think we do this together. I think even in this conversation, I feel that this is a part of doing it together. And this isn't only for one person. This is for everyone. And I think these gifts are for everyone. And so my eagerness to remain humble with it and stay baseline with it and find people who are willing to work with and have them experience this too is a fascinating thing. Joined a lot of mystical fairs because this is where this type of thing would be accepted.
Oh, sure.
And
Right.
yeah, there was actually 2 of the fairs that I joined. One was called the 55 plus lifestyle event. And then there's the World of Women event that these 2 are really big. And these were the first 2 that
Canada?
I did it at. In Canada, yeah. And so they weren't specifically geared towards mysticism or esoterics. So it was kind of interesting to see the feedback that I would get from people. Although what I wanted to do is open up a booth and just put free energy session for 10 minutes and see who would sign up. This was my curiosity. I wanted to see who signed up. So thankfully, out of the 2, I had just under 200 people. And
wow.
Now these are people.
It's a lot of energy.
Now they're only 10-minute sessions, and I released one emotion based on a circumstance in their life. A lot of the people, I would think 70% of the people hadn't even experienced energy work before, which I was really excited about too, because you can kind of see
no
that
preconceived ideas.
Yeah, the openness of people today seems to be flowing really well, and they're not so rigid, and that was really neat. And the stories that were coming from this. I don't want, we don't have a long enough podcast here. So
It's our problem lately.
So I was able to, gratefully, I've done 11 events now. And the reason I'm bringing this up is each time I worked with someone, I learned more about this style. So you could imagine that many people, it was like rapid learning in one weekend. I would go home and it was like I had worked for 18 hours or something. I was all tired, but then
must have been exhausted.
Right.
Crazy.
No, that's the other thing. I don't I don't get exhausted from it.
That's how you know it's your gift.
Nice.
Did you ever hear that, Curtis? Your gifts energize you, where your skills you might be great at, but they'll wear on you a little bit. So this is truly a gift.
That's beautiful.
Chills.
It's wonderful, and I'm super grateful, and I'm eager. So from when it started to creating, I had no playbook. I had nothing to to learn
Yeah.
what the heck was going on. And so I really trusted my intuition with it, and I would trust that I understand that we do receive answers. It may not look like an answer you want to receive either. I didn't get the answer that I thought that I required, but I allowed myself to step away from the judgment around it and say, okay,
Good call.
I'm not seeing the direct response in my, show me in what I did receive how I can implement that into this style. And it was fascinating. And
that
so,
was eloquent, the way you said that. I'm sorry if I interrupt you, but I have to stop every now and then and just be like, that was super awesome. Because like that Rolling Stones song, you can't always get what you want, but you get what you need.
Yes. Yeah. Well said. It's so true, because, you know, the dialogue of the ego is interesting. You know, you say you want to travel, and while you're traveling 8 months of the year, you say how much you would love to be at home, right? So the dialogue of the ego. So I had to what the heck was going on, and sometimes I literally had to shut doors and stay away from people because there was so much information, and I didn't know what the dialogue was. If it was me attempting to get in the way of it, and my excitement too much excitement? And was I learning too fast? So I think there's an organic growth to what I have learned. Through the journey of learning it, I would keep notes from working with everybody. And I ended up dating this woman who was really spiritual, and she helped me kind of dive right into it. She has a really strong understanding of the chakras. And of course, they don't teach you that in hockey here in Canada. So I had no idea.
No way.
I had no idea.
Help?
Yeah. She introduced that world to me. And now it all depends on who you're talking to, right? If you go around the world, everybody explains energy differently.
Sure.
The reason why she would explain it this way is she was well studied in chakras. You know, you can talk to a scientist and they would coin it as endocrine system. So it really, I loved the idea of the chakras because at least it would just say here and here and here. So I could make sense of all my notes that were all over the place. Right. And she didn't like that I had to me it made sense, but it didn't make much sense to her. And then she helped me put it on the laptop and break it down on a document, and we started creating a chart. And I mean, you can do a general research online, anybody can right now, and to say what traumatic emotions are in the solar plex or in the root chakra or in the crown chakra, and you can find a list. And this is kind of how it got started when we did it. But then I would meet someone and I would get another emotion that's tied to that, which would lead me to 6 more emotions that were in all the other ones. This chart started as 1 page and now it's 18 pages. And the information has continued to accumulate. So this particular chart, you cannot Google it. But if you wanted to research and read a lot of books and talk and watch podcasts and study Ayurvedic doctors, you could come to these conclusions yourself. So this isn't something that's not available to everyone. I required a way to identify. And what I mean is, if someone had a pain in their chest, I would say, okay, heart chakra, and we all understand that. So I would go into my chart, which I have up here, and I will give you an example. So the question I would ask these people, and in my process, I always say, I want a hell yes, because we want to get,
I love it.
we want to, so this is really quick. It's really rapid. It's fast. You can release motions quick. This is what I love. I love being able to help someone quick. I mean, we're a push button society, right? We're on devices and we want everything yesterday. And kind of that's my prayer, you know, like it's time to upgrade us.
I really like that you embrace the quickness. You know, because so often we're like, get back to slow and basic. But I love that some things you want to just happen fast. Some things you aren't doing for the enjoyment of it. You want to like process and get through it. Right.
Yes.
And I can't wait to see your chart. But the emotions part, when you're working with people and their emotions, because I've always found it pretty fascinating. Well, first of all, emotions weren't always seen as strength. Right. I remember growing up as a feeler and people were like, you got to get a tougher skin, you're too emotional. And then growing into it, I'm like, emotions are information, right?
Yes.
So, and then there's this emotional intelligence in the last decade or so. So when you work with people, do you find that a lot of times people can't even name their emotion or know what the emotion is that they're asking you to release. Do you get to that with them and help them identify?
Yeah. So the reason I say hell yes is because I've noticed that with working with people, it isn't even a question in their mind. They look at me and say, yes, that's the emotion. And I know immediately, right away. And we go down the list. And in a 45-minute session, we can clear 8 to 9 emotions.
Wow.
So in a 10-minute session, what that I would do at these events, at these fairs where I would have a vending booth, we could clear 1 to 2, but sometimes 1 takes quite a bit. And so every time, it's a fascinating thing. It's amazing to see. I'll explain kind of what I've learned, what we do. You know, we like to tell stories in our life because the stories kind of back up our personalities and our persona, right?
Yes.
So depending on what age you're at, you have become such and such to your parents and to your brothers, to your sisters, to your friends, to your teachers, to your colleagues. So we've created this persona. So we kind of step forward having to live up to those personas. And, you know, maybe Carol thinks that I have to talk a certain way and Frank thinks I have to talk a certain way. And okay, I'll just talk like that to Frank all the time. And we tend to kind of get comfortable in these things. And so what's going on with that, right? So I like to say it like this. Say you're standing in line and you're listening to a conversation because you're just waiting and someone's describing their experience. They went skydiving on the weekend, right? It almost feels like you're in the plane with them because the way they describe it is fascinating. You just get excited or you're scared. It depends on if you like flights.
You're like,
right?
oh my God.
So how come they accomplished making you feel like you were almost there? Well,
because they use their emotions, and emotions are contagious.
Exactly. Yes. You could
ding,
feel
ding,
their
ding.
emotions.
What do I win?
Gold star.
Right?
Gold star.
Sorry.
A session.
Right.
So,
all right.
Yes.
So descriptive words, right? Like I was sure it was good. It was exciting. I was elated. I was so happy. It was crazy. I mean, all these things are triggers for us when we're telling a story. Now, that person can tell that story for the next 10 years and they're going to get really good at it, right? So now there's a happy experience. And we all don't like these ones, but let's talk trauma, okay?
Yeah.
So when someone says, I was hit by someone in a parking lot, who swerved out of control and screwed up my leg, and I've had to have reconstructive surgery done on my leg ever since, and maybe it was 13 years ago, and you're feeling how terrible that feels, and you're so sad, and your empathy is so strong, and you're wondering what I'm starting to feel. So they're describing it with these unwanted emotions, these emotions that represent discord, and through that they help you feel it. So again, you know, emotions, they're superpower. You know,
And
they
that
have,
person's been doing that to themselves for 13 years, right?
Yeah, like
Over and over again. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll share an experience I had with a client, a really similar description of what happened to her. I will respect certain things from her story. Confined to a cane, had surgery after surgery on her leg. Each time they would screw something else up.
Oh, wow.
It got so bad that even Percocets weren't relieving her pain, and she could barely sleep at night. It was affecting her mood. It was affecting how she expressed herself in the world. I worked with her, did one online session with her, and we found 8 emotions that were tied to that area, the knee. We released them all. And at the end of the session, she said, "Are you seeing what I'm doing?" Because she was under her desk lifting both her legs up. And I was like, "I can't see under your desk." So she said, "Give me a second."
That would probably be illegal. Just kidding.
Well, she was really excited. So I think she was like forgetting that, like, I'm not with you. So
wow, right.
Amazing.
And she said, "Give me a second." And she stood up and she's like, "I don't have my cane." She's like, "I haven't done this in so long."
Wow.
So now emotions, they do have that much power because they get stuck in there and they get trapped. And when we release, we allow the natural flow that is us to flow either down or up. or in, and from the side. This is this healing energy that's available to all of us, but because we are super strict on the idea of what's going on, that energy won't supersede our beliefs, because we're dictating what it, because we are the wizards. Okay, we are magical wizards, by the way. And
I love it.
I love the aside.
Damn right we are.
yeah. So
Hell yeah.
what she was essentially doing, she was using her power to hold it in place, which she was being supported by the universe, because the universe is saying, well, you're using your power. So what I did is we come along and we shake that up, and we allowed that healing to come in, and it was instantaneous for her. And thankfully, she's still doing great. And there's many of these scenarios. Everyone loves the physical stuff.
That's beautiful.
Curtis, just real quick, can I ask you, and I'm sorry if you kind of already said something about this, but like, how, if her knee's hurting, how do you know what emotions to go to, or
so
how do you
The
figure?
chakras.
Yeah, so your root chakra.
What chakra is the knee in?
The root chakra.
Oh, okay. So it's anything from the waist down is root. Okay.
Yeah. So here I will. What I was going to do with the heart earlier, but I'll switch it to the root chakra. So when I identify the area with the person through a short screening, because and the thing I also like about this is it's not talk therapy, and you don't have to share your personal information with a stranger. You know, these are two wonderful things that, I mean, why, I don't want someone to feel uncomfortable. I'm here to help. I'm not here to make them feel worse. So all I require is for the person to think about it, to have it present in their mind. Okay. Because I'm only addressing this from an energetic perspective. And when they do that, I can tune into that frequency, and I can weaken the frequency, and it allows the emotions to release from this area of their body. It's a fascinating thing.
Oh.
So these are emotions that are associated with the root chakra. I'll read them, and I won't stop until I'm done. So fear, trust issues, workaholic, hopelessness, indecisive, issues around money, insecurity, emptiness within, hoarding, overeating, worry, ungrounded, feeling like you can never feel at home or fully happy, attachment, lack of boundaries. Do you always take care of others and everything else in your life before yourself? I'm sure we could all attach to that one.
Relate to that, yeah.
Ability to manifest. Does it feel easy? Sexuality. Are you comfortable with it? No self-love, unsafe, unstable. And the last one is difficulty with challenges. So she picked 8 that just jumped at her. And curiously enough, these are what were trapped in the knee. Now, I'm always learning. I'm always understanding this more. You might wonder what my role here is. I worked with a lot of healers to discover what is actually happening with me. And something that I have discovered, and we have discovered together, that I can do is I can direct energy. And I think it's Mary McTaggart has a book that explains these things quite well, that some of us have the capability of opening another's aura, and we can assist in removing things. So basically, you don't need to wait 18 years to come to a realization that you're okay. You know, we can get there now. And so maybe the universe has allowed this because collectively we're finally ready for it. I can't tell you exactly what's going on. And again, I say I learn with every client I work with. I learn, and I'm well studied. And one thing that I'll always do is I'll open it. I won't do it for you. I always encourage you to release it. And I notice sometimes people hold so tight to these emotions. And once they free themselves, it's this calm feeling. Some people say they feel tingling in their body. It's fascinating.
Do they have to come again sometimes then to release it? Or can they just do that on their own?
Okay, so you know what's a great way to explain this? Say you're traveling somewhere and you've never been there, right? You step off the plane, it feels unfamiliar, but everything you read about this place is it's wonderful, it's amazing, it's bliss, it feels great. So why am I uncomfortable? Well, you just got there, right?
Yeah.
But by day 3, you're like, now I get it. It's an amazing place. So I think that's what happens when you release this emotion. It's like what's going on, but then you kind of, what the term would call, integrate, and you wake up the next day and you're like, that no longer has a hold on me.
Okay.
Why does that feel weird? but then a couple days will go by and you'll just, ooh, this is great. So I think that's kind of what's going on. So yeah, it's
great way to explain that. And you
Very.
make me think of like training wheels with a bike, or, you know, because we always talk about this letting go. You would think it's easy to let go of something that's not serving you, but it becomes such a part of your identity. And I feel like some people hold on to it like a binky or a blankie,
Yeah.
you know, or training wheels, because it feels comfortable that it's there.
Wayne Dwyer, I always like to credit whoever I get these epiphanies from. Wayne Dwyer says,
I'm a huge fan
know,
of his too.
yeah. So he says, you know, the other day I was having a conversation with myself, but then he stops and he says, so who are you having a conversation with, right? So I think we need to understand that, you know, maybe there's this part of ourselves that has been scared to reveal itself and always likes to be there for you. And I think that's what's going on when these things happen. You're kind of more of you is revealed in these sessions. And sometimes that's scary because it's unfamiliar. It's not this, you know, and it's kind of like a wild animal that approaches a house from the forest, and there's children and they stay away from each other, and then, you know, a whole month goes by and then they got food on the deck now for them, and it's getting more comfortable. Well, I think what's happening is the wild animal is assimilating. Next thing you know, it's rolling around on its back, and that's a sign that an animal is really comfortable. So, you know, I think that's what's happening with all of us. And some people won't allow themselves to go there, and some people require it. And I think I would like to work with the people who require it, and bless those people who don't want to do it. I think what those people represent in our lives is it keeps us pushing to get to know more of ourselves. And I think the whole without a top there can't be a bottom. I think without a back there can't be a front. I think this is what drives us. We have to have examples of someone not driving themselves to better in order to really get us to drive ourselves. And I hope I'm explaining that properly. So
Yes,
You are.
fantastic.
I have to ask
Curtis,
go ahead.
Could you say you're kind of getting people to like redefine their stories, like the woman who had the you know, was hit by the car or whatever, you know, maybe that was just an example. But so instead of always telling the story about how she was hit by the car and how much it hurts and all the operations, her new story is now, you know, you came in and healed her and everything's great, kind of thing. So you change your story and then all your emotions line up, as it were.
Yeah, so maybe some things weren't available to her, and now the old story is no longer available to her. And I think that's what's happening. And I think when
Is the emotion
we
isn't
come,
there?
Well, because the pain's not there anymore.
Well,
Is that why?
so there's a couple things. So the like she might wake up the next day, and one of them for her was workaholic. Okay, the emotions, and she might wake up there and think about workaholic. But what people always tell me is I still think about the emotion, but it doesn't even make me sweat anymore. It doesn't even, I don't even care. So I think it's like cement, that it's a foundation for a story, and we just come in with a sledgehammer and break up the cement so it can't
Back it around.
yeah, you can't hold your life up there anymore. And you're like, well, okay. So is it her responsibility now to get to know this newer version of herself? Yeah, right. And my end is complete. I get to work with someone else, and I love working with new people. My girlfriend and I are currently working on another chart that we're going to be implementing, and it's kind of building, and it's a little bit of a joy for both of us. The chart that I currently have right now, it helps people remove the negativity, and the chart that we're currently building right now it keeps someone on the positive spectrum. So it's pretty neat, and it's building. Beautiful. And again, her and I have fun with these things. So it's kind of like a fun pastime of ours. And I think that's the organicness of creating, and that flow and having fun. And someone would say, well, how did you come up with this? I don't have the time to tell you about all the little fun times that one emotion came to mind, and it would find its way on the chart with an explanation that would help somebody. I'm always willing to work on myself because I think even someone who has become better still can become better. So I just set my barriers down, and I allow someone else to give me a perspective that I might not be seeing. And I worked with this gentleman. His approach was really strange. He told me to drop all the healer stuff and continue with carpentry. And I was wondering what it was. And of course, I mean, the obvious response to that is, are you crazy?
Weird.
So, but I fished a little bit, and I found out that he was in healing stuff during lockdown. And because of all the companies losing everything, he lost it. And then I thought, well, what emotion is it tied around that? And of course, it starts with a B. Bitterness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's a big one.
Hell yeah.
Or a J.
So again, this was, I like to say, source. So this was source's way of giving me another emotion to put on the chart that's going to help someone. And
Yeah.
and
That is an
honestly,
emotion.
the next client I worked with, she picked bitterness, and I was like, okay, I'm done with saying how I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna be open to all of it. And another thing Wayne Dwyer likes to say, that Patanjali is an old author preceding Christ, and all this is and what Wayne Dwyer would articulate. And one of the things that Wayne Dwyer loved of Patanjali's was that he would say, open to everything and attached to nothing, right? So hearing that is one thing. Embodying it is a whole other thing. Now, it really helps relationships, because it's helped my relationship with my girlfriend, and it's kind of flooded into all my other relationships. It's a fascinating thing once you understand what being attached to nothing means, because you truly understand what love is whenever it becomes unconditional instead of conditional. Like with as long as you're this way and this way and this way, we're all good. But if you do this, then we got a problem. I don't like that. That's conditional. And for me in my life, I attempt to move forward unconditionally and with no attachment. And I really, sometimes you hear something and you say, okay, I want to try it on. And I allowed that is be open to everything. So open to everything means I had to go through this experience, and I didn't allow myself to get agitated, and I remained present for the lesson that I learned. And here is one word, and I could put it in my chart, and it helped the next person I was with. So that is a fascinating thing as far as I'm concerned. So I say we do this together. And I had no idea that this guy that I ended up not wanting to work with would be a great teacher in that moment. But it wasn't what he was saying is what taught me. It was what he was feeling and expressing.
Right. That's amazing. Right.
Because often isn't that our words and our feelings say completely different things. I was thinking before you said that it's so cool that you're coming from the perspective that you are like carpenter of emotions. You're engineering, you're remodeling, you're building people's lives, and I think
you're right, because I often said, okay, what has being a carpenter taught me that I can implement? Well, when someone calls you over to look at their kitchen, I see what's in their mind. And that is because I've done so many of them. So I can give them the vision even though they can't see it, and I can deliver that. Whereas when I notice that I implement that into someone that I work with, they can give me a description, very little, and now I can begin to see it. And so I think that we're always in the right place at the right time. It's that we're perceiving it as unwanted, and we just want to be somewhere else. There is deliciousness in everything we're doing. There is things to be in any circumstance we're in our life. It's releasing the attachment around it, and again, viewing it 2 inches floating off the earth instead of head on. Because, there's, Dwayne also says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yeah.
That's a great,
fantastic.
So it's like an abstract piece of art. There could be two people in opposite positions in the room looking at it, disagreeing with what they're seeing. And all they have to do is look at it from the same perspective. So, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
All right.
No, I was just going to say, how long ago did you start sort of diving into the Reiki and
so Reiki
doing what you're doing now?
Oh, doing what you're
Okay,
doing.
so Reiki was around 6 years ago. And this style, which I am a practitioner in, currently the only one, which I call ERP, Emotional Release Practitioner.
Love it.
This has been a year, and it's been an amazing year. I'm super eager with what's coming. I've made some really interesting connections. This works with everyone. Like
That's amazing.
It is.
We all have emotions.
right? This is it's our superpower.
So do you feel like, sorry, you say it works with everyone, so there's not people that would be like closed off to not allow you to really? Oh, that's fantastic. Great.
One of the last events I was at, it was an outdoor event, and it was near a small little town where in a small little town you kind of have people who are just, that's what they do, that's their thing, you know, they never really expanded. So I'm like, here you are at my booth, I get to show you something really cool. And it was a daughter with her husband and their mother, and she was walking with a cane, and they were kind of rough and tough, and they were really skeptical. And I would encourage them to take a look at the charts, if there's any emotions on there that they felt that resonated with them. And I said, I would love to work with you. And so I worked with the elderly woman, and she came in, and we found 2 emotions. And we started releasing the first emotion, and I do it through a reduction process, and we kind of got about halfway released. And she said, oh, I think this will be it though. We'll never get this all done. And I'm like, well, you're saying that to the wrong person. I didn't tell her that, but, because like I said earlier, I could shift a little bit and do some of this for someone, but I refuse to do it. I keep the door open, and I'll stand there and I'll encourage you to do it yourself, because I feel there's so much more value in that. And she got was able to get to 0, and she had tears, and she couldn't believe she could release that. And then I looked at my schedule, and there wasn't someone coming for another 5 minutes, and I said, let's go for another one, because I was really eager to help her out. And so this works for, like, I don't care if you're a skeptic, which is what I really like, because there are a lot of modalities and there are a lot of energy styles out there that we can be completely closed to. Nothing works. But there's something about this, and whether it's some kind of embodiment of energy that I have been able to adopt. It's like my girlfriend says to me, she's like, I don't really know what you're doing because I don't know anyone else is doing it. And I was like, well, that makes so cool. 2 of us. So, I mean, this is me putting myself out there. I think of readiness. I've had the pleasure of patiently learning this and accumulating information in my downtime, not staying up all night, you know, pushing myself because I know I have something wonderful to share with the world. We all have examples of those people in our lives, and bless their hearts, because it's closed them off and eventually found them really stressed out in their life. So I love that I've been like, 3 days, I haven't even thought of this, get my laptop and I'll sit outside on the patio and just let some flow go here. And then I'll go out for dinner with my girlfriend, or we'll go for a hike. And in the middle of the hike, I'll think of something like it. So I'm grateful that I've had this time. Balance. Also am at a place now where I can work with more people. I can have a lot of people work with me at once because we have the charts. I have the understanding. Right. I have the awareness. I've studied the energy around people enough now to know where you're at energetically. So let's say we met in person and you say, Kurt, read my energy. This is how I do it. I don't do it in the moment. I can't say, oh, there's colors around you or something. What I do is, and I'll say it in 2 different ways. I'll study you. I'll look at you because I'm already doing it. I've done it with you 3 just to see what your fluctuations are as we're speaking. So,
oh no, busted.
So there's things that I can't do without your permission. So I always get permission. So yeah,
like look under the desk.
Yeah. So this is one way I'll do it. I'll share both, but I like to say it this way. I'll say, think of a playful kitten. Kittens playing together, and just see them in your mind and just notice how it makes you feel. And now I can see a hue around your body. So now I know the difference. So, and now people don't come to me because they're wanting to see playful kittens. People come to me because they want to get rid of trauma. So then I say, focus on the trauma. Focus on the people, places, circumstances, anything that is connected to or responsible for this trauma, and allow all those thoughts to become crystal clear in your mind. The shift in energy in someone that I notice immediately, I even saw it in you guys. So I can see that. I'm not like someone that walks around seeing everybody's auras. All I have to do is to get you to focus on something, and now I know I'm in, and now I know the aura is open. Call it an energy field. Call it light. I allow the light in. Nothing gets by me. It's an amazing thing. for a while there, I was doubting myself. I have a mentor that I work with, and he constantly tells me, do it, Kurt. You can do this. Just do it. So again, this is probably why I'm sitting in front of you guys, because the universe is like, well, you're ready, clearly. And, you know, my requirement, I wouldn't even say it's a desire. I think my requirement is to walk this and assist people, because I think everyone deserves to feel lighter. And that's I love when I see that. I'll share an experience, and this may entice some scientists or some skeptics. I was at an event, and a blind man was assisted into my booth with his brother, and we sat him down at the chair, and I started asking him my screening process, and he picked grief off of my chart. I have a chart that sits on my table at a booth, and I call it the usual suspects.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
These are the
that.
Usual suspects that people deal with on a daily basis, but this chart goes into way more depth. So he picked grief right away because I had to articulate for him. So he sat down, and without me asking, he said, my father passed away recently. And now think of the companionship that you would have from a parent when you're blind. You know, you become really dependent, and you have a really good friend. And he lost this friend. So I said, okay, cool. Now, I do a lot of asking when I work. I say, always give this being what they require right now. And I demand it. And so during this time of release for him, he said he could feel tingling coming off his back. He said, what the heck's going on? I've never felt this before. And I was like, well, just stay there. So we kept going, and we released it to 0. And I didn't even notice this at the moment, but I was like, oh, this is great, cool, you know, like, thanks for coming in. I had someone ready to come in my booth next, and all right, we'll see you later. And he gets up and he walks out, and it wasn't, I had a break around 2, and this was around 12 o'clock. So a woman in another booth sees me alone, and she comes over. She's like, I have to ask you, I don't know what the heck's going on in your booth, but people are going in and they're coming out happy. And she said, I saw a man go in there escorted, and he came out unassisted. What did you do? And she said she saw him over at another booth, and he was taking he has these dark glasses over, and he was like looking around. I didn't have time to dwell because I had another person in line. So I was just like, hey, this is great. I would love to talk to this guy again. Everything's answered, and all these things are available. I mean, you can do a lot of research. Just research 100 miracles in the world. I mean, you're going to be fascinated. So again, you know, that 1 in 8 billion chance that we even exist. I think we are the miracle, and we constantly look around for that once in a lifetime miracle, but just look in the mirror and study the miracle, right? Because when you're constantly saying, I am the miracle, instead of all these other self-defeating, limiting beliefs that we always affirm for ourselves, you start to feel better. And
well, I just wanted to kind of say that, like, you know, your experience and what you're doing now is like a magical miracle to the fact that you could see that it was going down and not dismiss what was happening, and roll with it. You know,
jumped on in.
Beautiful. That's brave, and that's magical. And so, you know, I mean, blessed, you know.
And you accepted a mentor, which I think is also great for people to hear, because that was going to be one of my questions. You know, was it an injury that you had that led you to this, or do you have mentorship?
Okay.
I feel like you take in the energy.
So when I was 6.5, I got hit by a motorcycle. I was in a coma for roughly 2 months and broke 11 bones, almost lost all the blood. I don't have the original blood that's on my birth certificate. That's how much blood I lost. They had to give me so there's some things that happen, and I've done a lot of research with healers on what exactly did. It's one of those, it's someone would say, why now then? Why not back then? I would think I would have drove myself nuts, because I don't think the planet at that time would be ready for those things.
Yes.
Right.
And I think energetically, collectively, because we are all one, by the way, like let's say I throw, you know, they say, like, Jesus talks about, or Yeshua talks about throwing the arrow, and he says, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. Because what he meant is they don't know that they're throwing the arrow at themselves. Right? Oof. I think, who is it?
And that's mean words and mean actions and everything.
you're only doing it to yourself. It feels like you're doing it to someone else, but trust me. And then the same thing works for kindness. When you're being kind to another, you're automatically being kind to yourself. I can't remember his name right now, but I'll still share it anyways. He learns how to point a finger with 3 of them coming back, because he knows when we point fingers, we're always pointing them at ourselves anyways, right?
Yeah.
So be careful where you're pointing your finger at, because it's always coming back to you. And I
love you.
Right? Yeah. You know, it's so interesting. And now I've managed to remain as I am. I love still playing sports. I still do some carpentry. I still like to enjoy going out. I still like to have fun. I still like to get out there and do things. I didn't, just completely change into something else just because I felt like that was the cliche. So everyone can do this. And I think that for men, any man who is listening now, who has maybe secretly started to feel more in his heart, well, let your heart shine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that you have to adopt this whole set of new language. You can still be that guy and just have a whole heart and strong-hearted man. And I think that for men who are afraid to step into something that they know is calling them, do it. Yeah. You're going to be pleased with the results. And anybody who is curious, I would love to work with anybody who is willing. Yeah.
Yes.
And
thank you.
So if you guys, you 3 would like to experience a session with me, it would be on the house, and I would love you guys to check it out and see what it's all about. And I will take.
Do we
want to
be super vulnerable and do it live? No.
It's okay.
So yes, I would. I would 100% do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so whoever comments Bombastic on this, the first 30 people, I will honor 50% off session because I would like more people to experience this.
Wow, thank you, Curtis.
Thank you.
So my socials are on there. You can find me, book me, and I look forward to meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's it from Bombastic Broadcasting. Be fabulous, be fun, and most of all, be fearless.
Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. So much more in this world that you can do. Wake up. Every little thing in this life that you're going through don't mean a thing. Wake up. You keep shining. You keep grinding. Wake up. All is aligning. All you gotta do. Wake up. My man Mo said that the reason that the world fucked up is cause everybody lazy. Positivity is corny to them, but they still gon' complain about the bad going on. Shit crazy. So I just had to drop a little project. I don't know what the object is, but this feels good. If you too hood for the good vibe, sorry I ain't got nothing for you. Why should I?
You shouldn't. We out here doing the things that y'all wouldn't. Life could be a sweet ride. Proof is in the pudding. These guys with the weak vibes, I'll show them where to put it. Down bad, I was looking for the answer. Mind all mad, taking over like a cancer. Canceled the sub plans, came from up above. Told me everything we doing, showing love, and I gotta
wake up. So much more in this world that you can do. Wake up. Every little thing in this life that you're going through don't mean a thing. Wake up. You keep shining. You keep grinding. Wake up. All is aligning. All you gotta do. Wake up.
I've been getting so high, head up in the clouds. I don't ever wanna come down, but I gotta
wake up.
Ain't enough time to be down. Bust a smile, cause it's yet another day that I'm allowed to
wake up.
Feeling blessed to be alive, man. Not long till we thriving. Take the time to remind yourself that it all starts inside yourself. Most.
Wake up feeling stuck every day, then you gotta realize that it's all in your mindset. Read about that meditation, you go get around to it, you just haven't had the time. Yeah, I bet. Best thing that you could invest in is you. Could have the results or could have the excuse. Only one life, so take care of what you choose. And I ain't preaching, I'm just telling you the truth. Wake up. So much more in this world that you can do. Wake up. Every little thing in this life that you're going through don't mean a thing. Wake up. You keep shining. You keep grinding.